Happy Wednesday morning to you, Cross Point Alliance Church. Hope that you're well, resting in Jesus and enjoying his presence consciously and deliberately today. And like I usually say, if things are off course or off track, you have the freedom to pause and say, Lord, I want to get back on track. So I want to talk to you. Well, first of all, let me say this. It's good to be back in my office and to be filming here in the States. So it feels like I've been away for a long time, although that's not really the case. But anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit today about Job. So when we were in Japan, I'd been just in my personal reading, I finished up Job. Really powerful stuff. Every time I read Job, I scratch my head in wonder and awe at what's going on there. So the thing about Job, let me first read from Job chapter 38. And I should give just a little bit of context here. Job has registered his complaint with the Lord about the suffering and the difficulties that have come to him. He lost all of his children, lost all of his wealth, lost his friends, most of his friends, lost his stature in the community, pretty much was defrocked in every respect. And the first 30-something chapters, 37 chapters are processing through that with friends. So the Lord responds in 38:2, Job 38:2. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. So Job had been going on for 37 chapters with his friends. It was just a big mess. And the Lord, having been quiet for so long, finally says, okay, all right, if you're so tough, why don't you prepare to answer my questions? And pretty powerful stuff. But let me dial in just a moment on suffering, okay? Suffering. We all suffer, sometimes justly and sometimes unjustly, but here are some things that are not true about suffering necessarily. Some things that Job discovered, okay? Number one is that hard times and calamity are not tied necessarily to sin. So, kind of a convoluted way of saying it, but just because someone is suffering or just because they're on hard times does not mean that they have done something wrong. So the natural way to trace something, usually when you look at calamity, you're like, okay, well, what did I do to cause this? Or what did he or she do to bring this about? And you start to backtrack, and inevitably it ends up with, well, you did X or Y. In fact, Job's friends, they came, they mourned with him, they sat down with him, but they were kind of saying, Job, look, God doesn't bring hard times on innocent people. So you had to have done something, because there's no way this would happen without you having done something. And that's actually a lie. That's a lie. And so I want to say, if you're suffering right now, or if you're in a jam, it does not necessarily mean that you have sinned. It's a fair question to go to the Lord and inquire. Number two, Job learned this through his suffering, okay? He learned that God was just in putting him through the suffering, okay? God was just in putting Job through the suffering. Now, Job hadn't sinned, right? So he hadn't done anything to deserve it. And yet God brought suffering to him anyway. Okay? And God was just. Now here, listen to this for a second. You know, the patience of Job is something we hear and we read about in the New Testament, and rightly so. But while he was under pressure, he said this about the Lord. He said, God has put me in the wrong, and closed his net about me, 19:6, Job 19:6. So God has hemmed me in. He has got me in a chokehold, and I can't tap out. Job 17:18 says, Behold, I have prepared my case. I know that I shall be in the right. He challenged God to a courtroom duel. He did. And in fact, one article that I read said that Job tried to sue God. But God is just in bringing suffering upon his children, even if they didn't do something to deserve it. And even the way we say that, like it does not follow that suffering is deserved by sin. Job did not know, and this is something to think about. Job did not know the backstory, did he? We know. We read it all. We read the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story, and we can wrap it up in a neat little Sunday school lesson. In the midst of it, he didn't know that God was showing him off to Satan. He didn't know it. Now, I wonder, think just for a second. I don't know. I have a hard time keeping up with my own stuff, but I'm not suggesting this is the case. But what if God is treating you like his trophy, and he's saying to the enemy, watch how she responds under duress, and watch how she does not curse God. Watch how he handles this. For all you know, that is happening. We don't know. Job didn't know that. But God is just in allowing suffering to fall on his people. It's not like he's mean. He has his own purposes. But number 3, suffering does accomplish good things. I'm struggling a little bit even as I say that, because I don't want suffering. I've never met anyone that says, sign me up for more suffering. Lord, send more. But here's kind of the truth. Through suffering, Job went deeper with God. He got a good dose of revelation. At the end of his time, he admitted, I've talked a pretty big talk, and I overstated my case. I overextended myself, and I was wrong. He said as much. And what would you do to gain more revelation from God? If the price you had to pay was suffering, would you be okay with that? Suffering? So you, through suffering, will get revelation. So it does pay off. You know what else will happen when you suffer? You become more kind. You become a kinder person when you suffer. Those are gifts. And maybe you figured it out, but I haven't figured out how to grow deeper in God and how to become more kind when everything is going well. I doubt you have. Maybe you have. If so, let me know in the comment section. But it is through suffering that we get into the deep stuff. We become more kind. We become more gentle. Now, I should say this. Suffering does not necessarily increase your character. I mean, you can resist it and fight it and be proud and become bitter and stall and start going sideways. I have met people, some of them older, who just said no, and then they stopped growing and they began to grow sideways or even backwards in a sense because they put a hard stop to it. That happens. That does happen when people have done this in ministry. They're like, okay, I've had enough. Missionary comes off the field, pastor resigns, parachurch leader says, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And we shortcut the process. So it is possible for suffering to bring about bad results if we choose that. So those are 3 things from Job. Number 1, hard times and calamity are not necessarily tied to sin, and that God is just in allowing suffering to befall us. and that suffering does accomplish good things in your lives. So just a couple housekeeping things. Number one, peacemaking. This Saturday, we've sent out the links on the news track. Still time to sign up. Encourage you to do so. I'll be there. We've got a good group, I think, from our church. The district is going to be there. Lunch is provided. Starts at 9, concludes at 4. The Japan team debrief. We had a great time with fellowship and potluck. I love potlucks with the people of God. We had a debrief. The team is processing and will make a kind of draw some conclusions, and we'll present that to the elders. And then after that, there'll be some more conversation, but we'll keep you in the loop as to final decisions and where that actually lands. Lastly, on the annual meeting, we put out a call for children's church workers. We have 2 that have been carrying the load for quite a while. We've put out a number of calls. I know a number of folks have already responded to the nursery and the calls that have gone forth for more help there. And you guys have responded. And a big shout out to especially the women of the church. You guys are really good with kids, and especially smaller kids. But we do have an opportunity in children's church. You have an opportunity to make an imprint on a little child's life. I remember the first Sunday school teacher I ever had. Her name was Donna Farr. We left the Amish, and Donna Farr was our teacher. After that, it was Bradley Montgomery. Those were the teachers in it was Fellowship Baptist Church. It used to be Southside, then they changed it to Fellowship. But I remember those teachers to this day, Donna Farr and Bradley Montgomery. Bradley Montgomery's with the Lord. I don't know what happened to Donna Farr, but you have an opportunity to love on kids and to bring some relief to the 2 women who've just been carrying this load for a while. But I want to put that out to you, challenge you to respond. Let me know, or talk to Jackie Brennan or Natalie Noble if you would like more information. Let me bless you, Crosspoint, okay? The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. See you, Crosspoint. Bye.